Hello, BookTube. I have a little bit of odds and ends here. No actual mail. No packages have arrived today. I know there are plenty on the way, but I don't know what the timing is. Maybe the mail truck drivers are taking it easy. It is almost 80 outside, of course, as you'd expect, right? I mean, it's November in New England. What are you going to do? Yes, indeed. It's a Tuesday in November, in mid-November in New England, and I am gearing up to take my little dog on a nice long walk, so I am getting ready to put on a t-shirt, shorts, and sandals. And maybe some sunblock. but I don't have actual mail, but I have a few things that I want to show you. I don't have book mail. I do have periodical mail, including the Bedford Times Press. This is a tiny newspaper, a small-town Iowa newspaper from Bedford, Iowa. And they have a new books columnist. That is yours truly. And this is the second column. This is a whole column about books into movies, where I just talk about the whole concept of books into movies. And you'll notice the header artwork is different. The first column that I had for the Bedford Times Press was me and my little dog, a photograph of me and Frida. Because it was an introductory column. I was introducing myself to these readers. It's the first time. It's a brand new column. The editor of the Bedford Times Press has very kindly given me a nice, prominent piece of real estate in the paper. Since I was introducing myself, I thought I'd give a photograph, of me and my dog. But all the rest of them will have just my normal cartoon icon. And it is, as I've said, as I've mentioned on this channel a couple of times, it is an absolute incandescent joy to get that column in the mail, to know that it's going out to the readers of the Bedford Times Press. So I thought I would mention it, not only because I'm very proud of it, but also because it's great to be an Iowa book columnist again after many decades, and it's entirely possible for you to get the Bedford Times Press delivered to your doorstep. They mail out of state, or I wouldn't get a copy. Feel free to go to the website, I will list it down below, and subscribe to the Bedford Times Press. You might not be all that interested in the local 911 calls or the triumphs of the local sports teams, but you'll have a great book column every week, which is not nothing. And once again, a tiny little detail, if you do go to the Bedford Times Press and subscribe because you don't want to miss my book column, feel free to drop them a note and tell them that's why you're subscribing. Feel free to do that. The other periodical was the New York Review of Books. One of the greatest English language review journals in the world. And when I get a journal like this, I immediately go to the table of contents to see whether or not anyone is reviewing something that I myself have reviewed. It's a particular kind of feeling. If you're not someone who's running book reviews for the larger reading world, I'm not sure that you would really know what it feels like. It's a combination of a thrill, a combativeness, and butterflies in the stomach to know when someone else is writing a review of a book that you have reviewed. Are they gonna disagree with you? Are they gonna agree with you? Are they gonna put it better than you? And worst of all, the biggest thought of all for anybody who experiences this is, are they gonna catch something that you missed? That's important. I love that feeling. I hate it, but I also love it. And so I go to the table of contents to see, and there are two big examples here in this issue. Michael Gora, who's terrific, reviews the new Paul Auster, which is A Life of Stephen Crane. I have just reviewed that book. So it'll be interesting to see. Michael Gora, everybody in the New York Review of Books, of course, has 15 times the space that I did. And that is the sop that readers give to themselves. They say, well, I could have done all that if I had more space. You know right away whether or not the other reviewer of the book is just hitting it out of the park in a way that you did not. You know perfectly well, but you can always fall back on saying, oh, I didn't have the space. But I'll love to see Michael Gora on that. And there's another one in here too. What is it? Oh, yes, Nicholas Guyat. Who is Nicholas Guyat when he's at home? Teaches American history at Cambridge. He reviews two books, and one of them is Joshua Rothman's book, The Ledger and the Chain, about slave owners and how they shaped American society. And I reviewed that as well. And I had a fairly uncomplicated relationship with the Paul Auster book. I thought it was just terrific. Just a terrific book, well worth anybody's time to read, especially if they're interested in Stephen Crane. But if you're not, Auster will make you interested in Stephen Crane, which plenty of Stephen Crane biographies that I've read did not do. or did not think they even needed to do. And the ledger and the chain I thought was really important, really, really good. I think my main problem with it is that it's one of its fundamental contentions I disagree with, so I was looking carefully to see whether or not the author actually substantiates it, and he does not. So it'll be fascinating for me to read those two reviews, and it'll be fascinating to read everything in this issue, but it'll be fascinating especially to read those two, because you feel like you have skin in the game when you're reading someone else's review of a book that you have reviewed. And then the last thing I want to do here is not a book opening. In fact, it's not even a new edition. This is the finished copy of a book that goes on sale today. I just thought I would read you a bit from it, talk about it a little, because I loved it, and I think you would too. I think almost anybody listening to me would love this book, even though it's nonfiction. It's nonfiction for Nonfiction November. This is by Andrew Pettigrew and Arthur de Wedderwen, and it's their book about the library, about the history of the library. And it's terrific. It's a big, thick thing from basic books, and it takes you from the beginnings, the very earliest beginnings, to the real modernized beginnings at the end of the 19th century, to the state of the library today. I loved it. I think I'll be writing a review of it, in which the only shadow of criticism that I will have will be that I think it's a little bit too, hindsight it's a little bit too much presentism. I'm not sure that if you read this book and you knew nothing at all about libraries, I'm not sure that you would get the impression from this book that ancient Rome had public libraries. I'm not sure that you would. It honestly seems not just to these authors, not only that the library was given its basically current incarnation in the end of the 19th century, but that the whole idea came up at the end of the 19th century, which isn't true. It's off by 2,000 or 3,000 years. But that's a minor quibble. And it's not the subject of this book. The subject of this book is actually libraries in the last 150 years. When it does that, it is fantastic. This is just a fantastic book. There have been many, many books. I have almost a whole shelf of them about libraries. Just in the last 20 years, especially in the last 20 years when people have worried that the rise of the internet and the rise of ebooks spells the death knell of libraries. Turns out that's not true. Most of the numbers conveyed to me by Mark Richardson, who is a library director and would know, are that the libraries are doing quite well. They're pretty healthy. It takes an institution like this that so many people tend to take for granted. It takes that institution being endangered for people to realize how much they value it and rush to support it. I would like to think the same thing is happening in the United States with the post office. It'd be great, because the post office here is under severe threat. But I want to read you a bit towards the end of this book and get your thoughts on it and give you a sample of this book, because this is out today. Today is its publication date. And getting it for yourself, buying this, if you're watching this channel, you probably love your library or have loved some library in the past. This is a must-have volume if that's true. But I want to read you a bit here. Let's see here. Browsing is key to the success of the institutional library, and a key difference between this and personal collections. Since digital resources began to develop new models of selling, a great deal of ingenuity has been invested in trying to replicate the experience of browsing. The results are impressive, if a little creepy, in the recommendations by association in both the search results, if you bought this, you may like that, and in micro-targeted paid advertising. But what if we want something different, rather than more of the same? What if we do not know what we want, that we want something different, but a chance encounter sparks our interest? A thing that people have talked about in bookstores, and especially libraries, forever. Digital has not found a way either to replicate this unplanned event, or indeed the tactile rhythm of turning the pages, or marking the hours, or of progressing through a text. To be the ideal customer for digital services, humans have themselves to become much more robotic, predictable, limited, docile. Which I wonder what you think of. Probably a lot of you would agree with that. There is a way to simulate browsing in a library, to capture that element of serendipity. And I don't understand why more libraries have done it. I don't know of any libraries that have, which is to get someone with a headset camera to walk down the aisle, pull out each book, open it to the table of contents, flip it over to the description on the back, then put it back on the shelf. And you, as a patron of the library, can just roll that tape. It's part of the library's website. You can just roll that tape. Maybe there are logistics involved there. Maybe that's making librarians out there just cringe. I've always thought that I thought that was a great idea for shopping for books online at bookstores. It's just to have somebody with a camera, with a head-mounted camera, so that you can browse the shelves vicariously. But the passage goes on. It is hard not to think of the health of the library will remain. It's hard not to think that the health of the library will remain connected to the health of the book. The book, the artifact, has proved exceptionally resilient through the centuries, surviving the collapse of the Roman Empire, the media change from manuscript to print, the Reformation and the Enlightenment, carpet bombing, and numerous attempts to limit access to unacceptable texts. Most recently, it has seen off many of the technological pallbearers sent to conduct it to the crematorium, microfilm, CD-ROM, and now the e-reader. The sheer tangibility of the book is a key element of its success and its versatility as manual, totem, encyclopedia, and source of entertainment. And the library, as location and concept, has shared this mutability, but also by extension this permanence. And I wonder what you think of that. Do you agree with that? I know I have a lot of people who watch this channel who love ebooks as much as I do, and still love their libraries. So when you think the authors there are saying that the physical presence of books on shelves is a key element to the durability of libraries as institutions, do you agree with that? What about your own library? I have a million nosy questions, of course. I'll try to control myself. But what about your own library? The library that you have in your home, or the one in your home district or your hometown, the one that you use and love. I'm assuming that that library's collection has decreased in size just in the last 10 years. Is that right? They haven't added wings, or if they have, they've added wings of open space, tables, computers, big, broad, bright windows, but not shelves and shelves and shelves of extra books. Is that true? I wonder about that concluding note in this book that links the durability of libraries to the durability of physical books, of print and paper books. Do you see that as being true? I'd love to hear about it. But one way or another, I wanted to point out that this book, The Library, is on sale today and is well worth your time. I don't usually say that. I don't usually say it's well worth your money because modern books are so expensive. But this will work on you. You will really like it. I think you will really like it. At the very least, make sure that your library has copies. Make sure that your library gets this book. I don't imagine there's a library anywhere in the country that won't have ordered this book, but make sure that they do. And today's the day. So if you go to your bookstore today, you should be able to see this book. And if you go to your mainstream big box bookstore today looking for it and you don't see it, I guarantee you they have it. It's just back in the storeroom and they have only 4 people working there and all 4 people are working in the cafe. So you might want to go to the information desk and politely ask, does your inventory show that the book is actually here in the building? Because I don't come here every day. And if your inventory shows the book is here in the building, I'd appreciate it if someone would go and get me a copy of that book so that I can look at it and maybe buy it. Be prepared for surly responses, but even so, the book is out today and I loved it, so I wanted to make sure that you knew that. And of course, periodicals, including the Bedford Times Press, which has a new book columnist. So that's it. Kind of quasi new arrivals, new stuff type thing. I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.